In a world where a virus was running rampant and no one had a cure, only the superheroes in training could help. But the question was, could they do it? The virus was one that no one had ever seen before. As doctors were researching and rushing to save the world, they needed more help. 4 of the world's most brightest doctors, superheroes, were on their way to the top, and they each had an idea for a new antibiotic. But before they could put their plan into action, they had to become true superheroes. It was late winter of their junior year. They had to look ahead and apply for the MCAT. This is a mandatory test any future superhero needs to take in order to make it into the academy. They studied and studied. They even made a study group so that they could each succeed, and it became time for the test. During the spring of their junior year, they sat down to the 4.5-hour test. This test consists of 4 sections: physical sciences, verbal reasoning, biological sciences, and writing sample. About a month passed and the virus was still causing chaos. The superheroes in training had just received their MCAT scores back. Number 1 received a 28, which is average. Numbers 2 and 3 each got a 30, and number 4 received a 36. They all felt well prepared going into the application process. Doctors 1, 2, and 4 were all well prepared. They started looking at colleges and filling out applications, including the AMCAS, during the end of their junior year, and the summer in between their junior year and senior year. Due to the fact that the first application deadline is around August 1st, they wanted to be on time for it. Doctor number 3, Colin, thought because he received a good MCAT score and went to Hall Government every so often, on top of having a 3.9 GPA, he could wait to apply and be fine. He ended up sending in his application sometime at the end of November. The fall of their senior year came, and for the undergrads had come and gone. The virus was growing in size, but the students were getting closer and closer to becoming doctors. The superheroes in training started to receive secondary applications. They all filled them out in a timely manner and sent them back in, with a thank you note attached. It was time for some interviews. Due to the fact that superhero in training number 3 was late at sending in his application, he was not offered an interview to any of his schools. They told him to go out and get some more experience and try again the following year. He was no longer in the running to become a superhero and stop the virus. He was then killed off because the virus got a hold of him and he died a tragic death. The remaining superheroes in training began prepping for their interviews. They had to think about things such as what they would want to specialize in. As a superhero, also known as doctor, you can specialize in pretty much anything: urgent care, pediatrics, family medicine, oncology, neurology, really anything they wanted. It was time for some interviews. Something superhero number 1 was asked about was what they believed medical school would be like, what was expected of them.
So medical school is I think it's 4 years long. For the first 2 years, I would have to do basic classes and get through those, which might be a little tough because I don't like to work very hard. Of course, they would be beneficial because it lays that foundation, but yeah. The last 2 years on top of those classes is when I do the residency. Is that what it's called? Yeah. It's called residency, I think. So I would have to volunteer in a hospital and do some clinical stuff to make my resume look really good. But again, I'm not sure if I actually want to work that hard. It seems like a lot for a little bit of a licensing kind of thing. I should be able to just do this right now. So that's how I kind of feel about it.
Something student number 2, Jake, was asked about was the financial aspect of medical school and what was ahead of him. Medical school is not a cheap option, but it's worth it in the long run. Applying for school and taking the MCAT has already costed me a few $100s. A public medical school can range anywhere tuition-wise from $30,000 to well over $50,000. A private medical school starts about $50,000 or so. The money is a big part of the career, but it does not scare me away from becoming a doctor. student number 4, Morgan, was asked if she felt secure about going into the medical field. She answered by saying,
The medical field is one of the fastest growing industries in the world right now. They always need medical professionals, and if I can help, that's awesome, but I'm not really worried about job security.
The scariest part was now over, and now all the superheroes had to do was wait. The end of their senior year finally came. Superhero in training number 2 and 4 had done fantastic in their interviews and impressed the judges, and were moving on. Superhero in training number 1, however, was unprofessional and didn't seem to have a passion for their future, and was told to try a new path or try again at a later date. It was now down to 2. They went to medical school full swing, both doing their basic classes and discovering some sort of antibiotic that would finally top the virus. The endovers were halted, however, halfway through medical school. They had to take the USMLE. This is the United States Medical Licensing Exam. This test places the superheroes into their training. If you don't do well, it could hinder you from going far. The day of the test came. Student number 4 had studied and knew exactly what to expect, where student number 2 had crammed the night before and was fighting to stay awake. This was only step 1. The USMLE can take about 7 years to complete all 3 steps. The pressure of medical school really started getting to student number 2 during the end of his junior year, and he couldn't handle it anymore. He took himself out of the game. After 4 years of undergraduate school and 4 years of medical school, it was all over. Student number 4 had officially become a doctor and a superhero. She had overcome all odds. She was always above the averages. Her GPA was a 3.9, where the average was a 3.5. Her MCAT was a 36, where the average was around 30. She worked hard, and it was finally the day where her research was done. She had an antibiotic and stopped the virus. She is now a doctor and has a bright future ahead.
Okay, now, you're gonna have to go home, drink lots of fluids, and get some rest. You'll start feeling better in like a week, okay?
Okay.
Her starting wage is about $150,000 and will grow over the years to come. She hopes to save up and start her own practice someday. As student number 4 began her new life, all she had to say was,
The work was well worth it. Are you superhero enough?